You're listening to Paranormal Optimist. My name is Stephanie, and in this podcast, we dissect paranormal topics from the perspective of skeptics, believers, and everyone in between. At the end, it's up to you to decide. Are you a paranormal optimist? Hello and welcome to another episode of Paranormal Optimist. Before we get into today's episode, this is just the obligatory reminder that you can check the episode description to find more information about the show, like where to follow, all the places to listen, and any and all sources cited for each episode. A big thanks to you if you are someone who has already followed the show and even recommended it to other people. That makes such a huge difference, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'd love to talk to more of you though, so feel free to interact with me online, post a comment on the episodes if your platform lets you do that, send me an email, just let me know what you're thinking of the show so far. I'd really like to know. If you'd like to share your story for the podcast, be a guest on the show, or suggest an episode, send me an email at paranormaloptimist@gmail.com. Today, we're stepping away from our regular format again to hear some personal paranormal experiences that were shared with me for this episode. This is something I've been really looking forward to including in the show, so I'm glad that we finally have this opportunity today. Right now, I actually have enough listener-submitted stories that I can make 2 episodes in this format. So here is the first one, and sometime in the future, stay tuned to hear the next one. For this episode, I was able to actually sit with some friends of the show and have them record their stories in their own words. If that's something you're interested in doing, please reach out to me. If you want to speak with me directly, record your own words individually and send the file to me, or have me read out your written words on the show, just send an email to paranormaloptimist@gmail.com. I'm interested in sharing your story in however you are comfortable sharing that story. I'm also working on setting up a voicemail for this sort of thing, so stay tuned for that in the future too if that's something you're interested in, and I think that could be a really cool option. And if you have any advice on a good method to set this up, definitely let me know, because I am looking at some different options right now. Before we dive into these recordings, I just wanted to talk a little bit about anecdotal evidence and eyewitness testimony, experiences, and evidence. We talk a lot about science and evidence on this show, so you're probably familiar with the concept of empirical data and the difference between that and anecdotes. But just in case you aren't or you're not familiar with that terminology, I wanted to quickly discuss that here. Empirical evidence. Empirical evidence is information acquired by observation or experimentation. This is the type of evidence that scientists work with. Empirical evidence is something that is perhaps only initially observed to be true, but is then tested, measured, and repeated to establish its validity. It involves gathering data to create a body of information, which can be argued against and hopefully used to avoid bias-based conclusions whenever possible. Examples of empirical evidence would be something like statistics, which prove causation and correlation, such as trials with patients that show consistent and repeatable positive health results after completing a specific drug regimen. Another example would be something as simple as a recorded measurement, which expresses something like size or speed or distance, and is consistently repeatable, meaning that you can get the same result no matter who is using the instrument. Anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence is the opposite of empirical evidence. It consists of stories that have been experienced by a person or a group of people. While we often do associate anecdotal evidence exclusively with things like eyewitness testimony, it can also be used to describe commonly held beliefs, experiences, and opinions which have not yet been proven or cannot be proven by experimentation and testing. An example of anecdotal evidence could be someone saying that a certain combination of vitamins and supplements can help you lose weight because it helped them lose weight. Or a story about a personal experience that is, by nature of the experience, lacking in physical, testable, and repeatable data. Examples of this type of anecdotal evidence for our purposes would be things like a UFO or cryptid sighting, an account of an alien abduction, or a good old ghost story. So why does this difference matter, and what is the danger associated with trusting anecdotal evidence? The healthcare industry is one field where relying too much or really at all on anecdotal data poses huge risk. For example, there may be stories online where people claim that eating a certain food rich in some antioxidant cured them of their debilitating disease. Someone else with a new diagnosis could then in turn reject evidence-based treatment options, such as clinically proven drug therapies, and opt for more fringe remedies because they heard a story online of the success. The problem with this is that every person is different, and every person's body reacts differently to different treatment methods. Miracles really do happen in the world of medicine, so it can be really difficult to make decisions in these situations. Anecdotal evidence in this context is also dangerous because it deals with that age-old issue where correlation does not equal causation. Sure, maybe there's a person who ate peaches every day and they lived to be 110 years old. That doesn't mean that peaches make you live longer. We don't have enough information about this person to understand what other variables were at play to lead to such a fortunate outcome. It's anecdotal evidence, not empirical data. In the world of science, anecdotal evidence seems to be public enemy number one. In my episode about cryptozoology, I talked about how mainstream science rejects this field of study essentially because of its reliance on anecdotal evidence. As I discussed in that episode, however, sometimes anecdotal evidence is the only type of evidence that is available. Are we supposed to just dismiss information because it wasn't learned in a lab setting? The problem with automatic dismissal. I've discussed why and how trusting anecdotal evidence in certain situations can be dangerous. But there's also a very real danger related to automatically dismissing anecdotal evidence. This danger is revealed when we step away from the medical field, step away from issues with causation and correlation in the world of science, and deal with humans and their stories, people who have had experiences. The fact is that people have experiences every day that do not leave behind a trail of physical evidence. Does the lack of evidence mean that the event didn't happen? Certainly not. And obviously, for reasons I don't want to get into because this is not a true crime podcast, we cannot simply dismiss every story that doesn't have empirical evidence stapled to the front of it. Sometimes eyewitness testimony and anecdotal reports are all we have. And while we absolutely should not feel the need to believe every story we are told, especially if doing so makes us have to feign ignorance in other areas, we also have to be careful of dismissing people and their experiences just because we don't have the luxury of scientific data. I can think of few things more invalidating than having a legitimate experience, paranormal or not, and then being told by a stranger or even a family member that it was imagined or even deliberately fabricated for whatever reason. As an example, I have a completely stupid and non-paranormal experience that helps illustrate why this can be frustrating. When I was a teenager, I went to a concert and met a now quite popular musician who was also a teenager at the time. I will not say who they are because that's not the point of the story, but I met this person and had a really negative experience. Without going into any detail, I'll just say that this person teased me, they embarrassed me, they humiliated me, and it was just one of those dumb and ultimately irrelevant teenage experiences that your brain just cannot let go of. Over the years, I have shared this story only a few times because early on, I realized that about 50% of the time, people flat out accused me of lying when I told the story. Looking back, I do get it. They're fans of this person. Hearing this story kind of shatters their image of that person, and that stinks. So it's easier for them to just say, I'm lying, rather than deal with that. There is literally nothing I can do to prove the story. I know it's true, but it's not something that I have any evidence of. I can't collect empirical data. I can't run any tests. It just is what it is. You either believe me or you don't. I know it's true, but you don't, and we just have to move on. Obviously, my experience is inconsequential, and in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter at all. But if someone tells me something that happened to them, I I am compelled to believe them, unless they have given me good reason not to. When it comes to stories of the paranormal, sometimes that can be difficult, but I think it's important to at least try. It doesn't mean changing your entire worldview to meet the requirements for someone's story to be true. It doesn't mean basing any major life decisions on the story from one person. It just means respecting the other person enough to listen to them and hear what their story means for them. So, all this is to say, if you send in your paranormal experiences, I am not going to call you a liar. Could you be lying? Sure. I fully understand that you have that choice and that's something that you can do. But I'm not going to assume that's the case, because otherwise, where would we draw the line? For these kinds of episodes, we won't be trying to prove or disprove anyone's stories or experiences. We'll just be sharing for the sake of sharing. Because you may hear another person's story and experience and realize that you are not alone. And that is significant. With all of that out of the way, let's listen to some paranormal experiences. Whoever wants to go first.
I'm loud. I can.
All right, Jessica.
Hi. I'm going to do my story that I heard from a neighbor first that makes me very thankful not to sleep on the first floor of my home.
Your current home.
My current home.
Okay.
Yes. Now, I'm going to say that we live in a 150-year-old house. We are not allowing any type of ghost adventures in our house because currently, if there are, they are quiet. They don't bother us. I don't want to know. However, so 2 or 3 years ago, we went to our neighbor's. He was having a bonfire, and we were talking about like spooky shit, and because like we live in kind of like the middle of nowhere, and behind us is this big like woods, and the river runs behind our house, like the Clinton River. So we hear stuff a lot. You know, deer, you can hear raccoon and stuff moving around. So even at night, if you're in your house and you have your windows open, you can still hear stuff. So he said that Matt probably remembers the story, and if he doesn't, he's gonna be very surprised and scared, because I did not tell my mom the story because she sleeps on the first floor. But so our neighbor said that him and his wife were in the room doing laundry or something, and they heard a noise at the window. They had their window open, like with the screen and stuff, but they heard something, and so they both like darted their eyes over to it, and they swear, his wife swears up and down that there was a kind of like human shaped but not human looking into the window, and he said it was really dark. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because I don't like that because it's 2 houses down from me.
Yeah. 2 people say they saw
Yeah,
it.
well, she screamed and he yelled and it ran away. So he went outside with a bat and lights and stuff and tried to figure out what was there. He thought somebody was trying to like get into their house.
Sure.
And now he says they don't sleep with windows open at all or unlocked. And that's about the extent of that story. I wholeheartedly believe him.
Was there any reason for him to think it wasn't just a person? Was there any more to that story?
So he said he's like, it had to be a person. Okay. But then he said he looked at where his window was and it's very high off the ground. Like it's the first floor, but it's like high, and the person or whatever alien, the scary shit that was looking in that had like human shape but wasn't human, he said it was not human, was like chest level up. So
how tall would that have needed to be?
That it probably would have had to be over 7 foot.
Yeah, to get chest level at his window, yes.
It startled me. I remember we ended that bonfire very shortly after that because I'm like, no, thank you.
And they couldn't see like what it looked like besides having a human shape?
He said it was darker in skin color and he could see eyes but couldn't get deep. It was quick. The wife looked over, screamed, and when he looked, he yelled, and it was like on its way, turning around, running, whatever it was.
What could that have been?
I try not to think about it too much because it scares the shit out of me.
And it's only 2 houses down.
Yes.
I'm sorry for you. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I won't tell my mom that because she does sleep on our first floor.
How long ago was that?
2 years ago?
No, that's when he told us. But he said it happened like a couple years after they moved in. So probably about 9 years ago. Oh God, that was right before we moved in.
You were at his house before you moved in?
No, this is when it happened to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've lived there for like 8 years.
When we helped you move into your house, didn't somebody come out and tell us that there's like aliens or something? And
aliens
I'm like,
and ghosts.
okay.
Yep.
That's my current neighbor. That's the one directly next to us. I
oh,
do.
It's a different neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other person's on the other side of that house.
Yeah, so she's in between us, but she was just helping somebody at that house, like a mother-in-law, but she came over for some reason and came into our U-Haul and told me and you about aliens.
Yeah,
and
I
we were
remember
like,
that.
oh God. But
like,
now,
okay.
like, I know her well enough and I believe her. And
Wait, so has she said she's seen anything, or?
we haven't talked like explicitly about it, but she's mentioned that she's seen paranormal shit before.
Okay.
But the neighbor that said he saw like the alien thing, I wholeheartedly believe him. He's a trustworthy person. He's not insane. He's very intelligent.
Did he say it was an alien, though, or did he just say
He
it was
just
a
said,
person?
I know it wasn't a human.
Okay.
And it wasn't like furry. He
I
said
guess we
it.
have no reason to think it's an alien, obviously, but I mean, I guess it could be a 7-foot tall person, but those aren't very common.
He mentioned something about, he said it looked like alienish, but like, because he said it didn't have hair or anything like on its body or face or any head or anything. It's, yeah.
I mean, even if it was just a person, that's horrifying.
Well, yeah, there's still a guy outside your window.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be pretty.
I asked him if he called the cops, and he said, what was I going to say?
Intruder. I don't
But
know.
what do you know
I'm
what?
just answering the question.
I live in a
don't know.
small town, so they're going to be like drunk. You know, they're going to just blame it on something. They're going to,
yeah.
They're pretty dismissive out there. So that was my story.
Well, that's horrifying. So, should we hear from Matt or April?
No matter to me.
All right, well then, let's hear from Matt.
All right, so I think it was right after high school. So I graduated in like 2004. And a girl I was dating, they had a neighbor who's got this really, really nice pool. He's like, yeah, come on over anytime. Just knock on the door if you want to come over. We're like, all right. So we go to knock on the door. She went to the front door. I went to the side door. And you know, like when someone opens a door and you get that vacuum effect where it rattles like
Like the storm door?
storm door? Exactly. So I seen the storm door move and it made like the kind of sound. I'm like, okay, the guy opened the door. So I'm just sitting there just looking around at his yard, right? And I felt her hit my back. I'm like, oh, she's back. All right. And I turned around and there's nobody there. Okay. I'm just losing my mind. Whatever. Ignored it. Didn't care. So we would go swimming. I take my shirt off and she says, who hit you in the back? And I'm like, what? Nobody hit me in the back. And then I'm thinking, I felt something on my back. There was a handprint, red handprint, like someone open-handedly smacked me in the shoulder. And I don't know how it got there.
That's so like when you felt that, it didn't like hurt or anything?
It just felt like somebody just kind of like patting you on the back, you know? Not like a aggressive, like, oh.
Like a hearty, how are you?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Like a, hey, just slap your buddy on the back kind of feeling.
So how'd you feel after that?
Well, after that, I was like, all right. So we go swimming. Then they finally came. Oh, yeah, they were never home. But he's like, yeah, if you ever want, just go. Just be safe. So we're like, all right. And they came home, and I told him what happened. He's like, oh, yeah, my house is haunted. He's like, I got all this crap that goes on. You're sitting there rattling stuff off. And then I'm like, what? And it was just really weird. And I was very confused, and I do not know how that handprint ended up on my back. And it's just very odd. That's probably one of the weirdest things I've ever had happen.
That's why they're never home, because their house is...
Exactly. But now that house is gone. They tore it down. And
Sus.
I'm like, yeah, all of a sudden it just got redeveloped. I'm like, okay.
It's so weird how normal the paranormal can feel to people, you know? Like, you tell them that happened to him. They're like, oh yeah, our house is haunted. Like, what's for dinner? It's so strange.
Yeah, the dude brushed it off like, oh yeah, it's fine. I'm like, for you? I was like, all right. But yeah.
Just don't think about it too much. It's fine.
Yeah, but it was funny. A couple years ago, probably like 6 years ago. I don't have Facebook anymore. It's been about that long. But she, the girl I dated back then, she messaged me and was like, hey, remember when that happened? She's like, that was so crazy. I was like, yeah. I'm like, so it impacted both of us pretty good.
Remember when we learned that there was an afterlife?
That was the day. Yeah, it was weird, but yeah, that's it for that one.
That was a good one.
It was
That's
wacky,
I mean,
man.
that's a very scary
Yeah.
story that I'm glad. I guess I'm glad I've never had an experience like that. But at the same time, like, what do you do with that? What do you do with that experience?
Scream into the abyss.
To be honest, though, if we were like doing like a investigation kind of thing, I'd gladly accept it. As long as it was like that and not like where people get like that burning feeling or, you know.
Yeah, or scratches or whatever.
So you're saying,
it
like, you would
wasn't,
yes
there
it.
wasn't like anything like bad behind it. You know, it didn't feel like somebody was trying to hurt me, or it just felt like somebody just patting you on the back. But it left a big red mark.
Happy you're here. please go swimming.
Have a
Enjoy
good
the
time,
pool,
bud.
creeps.
I always
on their
have to
watch.
swim by myself, so I'm glad you're here.
I always wondered why there was wakes going through the pool for no reason. Oh, it's just the wind or the ghost.
So I don't know what stories you planned on sharing today, April, but you have some scary ones, and then you also just have some weird ones. So
Mine is fairly short because it was literally just that during COVID, I, like many people, was working at home, and I was just working at my kitchen table, and I can see into my living room from my kitchen from where I was facing, and I was just like, working, answering emails, working on spreadsheets, and maybe that drove me crazy or something, but I looked up and there was a man standing in my living room, and it was just a shadow, but it didn't look like it was against the wall, and there was nothing in my living room that could have created a shadow like that. Also, shadows don't normally look like they're standing in the middle of the living room. It was in front of my TV too, but it looked like it was in front of my TV, and it went past it was taller than my TV and it looked like he was standing in the dead center, and it just looked like a man with a hat.
man with a hat?
Oh.
I didn't even really acknowledge it. My brain noped out or something because I was literally typing, and I looked up and saw it, and I kept typing. And then I did wait, what was that type thing? And I looked back in my living room, and I was just like, no. And then I got goosebumps over my entire body and stood up and texted you and left my house.
Good.
Yeah, so how did he look? Could you see through him, or was he a black mask that you couldn't see through?
It
Or was it
looked
too fast?
it was kind of too fast, but from what I remember, it was I could mostly see through him, but it looked like a darker shadow that was standing in the middle of the room. It wasn't flush against the wall. It was in the middle of the room. And like I said, this was
in the corner of your eye.
no, this was the middle of the day too. So it was bright. I don't think I had any lights on, but it was because I had so much natural light coming into the house. It was a sunny, bright day. There was no reason a dark shadow should have been standing in the middle of my living room. And it was really, really creepy. It took me a while to recover from that. I was talking to you, or I started texting you about it because I didn't know what to do.
The shadow part, I don't remember you saying that it was wearing a hat. That makes it even more of a paranormal, what would we even call that? A paranormal archetype.
Yeah, I was going to say the Hat Man. That's a whole thing.
That's a
Yeah.
shadow people are a thing too, and
I didn't.
it's kind of hard to tell the difference between the two. Maybe one is a variation of the other. I don't know enough about that, but lots and lots of people have stories about that sort of thing.
I don't think it was the Hat Man, though, in all honesty. I don't know why. It kind of looked like a man wearing a trench coat and a fedora or something like that. But it didn't feel hostile. I don't know how else to say it, because I can't remember if I felt like somebody was staring at me, because something prompted me to look into the living room while I was working, because I was just but it scared me so much. And for a while, I was just kind of whenever you watch a scary movie or you hear one of these documentaries, you're I'm usually the first person to say, nope, sell the house, just leave. And for this, I was just it's so expensive to move.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of well, it didn't feel like it was hostile or anything. And I haven't seen him before or since. So
You felt so sure that it was there that you left your house, right?
yeah, I couldn't sit still anymore. I was so freaked out.
And you haven't seen him ever again since, or seen it, or whatever.
No.
I don't know if I missed it, but did you say he was see-through or no?
He was, I think he was, but because I don't remember not being able to see the wall behind him. I could tell, I think it was mostly black, but I could kind of see through him. He wasn't very clear.
You couldn't see
Yeah.
any distinguishing features or colors.
No, it looked like a silhouette almost, but it was a silhouette that was standing in the middle of the room. It wasn't against the wall and stuff. I
I
said.
mean, it would be one thing if you saw a blur in the corner of your eye, but you were looking at it full.
Yeah, I looked at it directly for a second or two, and then
The room.
yeah. So it was.
So scary. I don't know what I would do in that situation.
I just freaked out and texted you because I was just I didn't know what to do. I was so anxious that I left the house because it was one of those moments too where you're I was in the middle of working, so I kind of paced back and forth in my kitchen and then left my house and was texting you because I was so freaked out.
FYI for everyone, I am the worst person to text after having a paranormal experience. If you want me to, like, sympathize with you and be like, oh, that's so scary, I'm so sorry that happened, I won't. I'll be like, okay, tell me, how tall was it? What did it look like? Were there any smell? Tell me literally every detail about this because I need to know everything.
I would guess it was about 6 feet because it was
I
pretty.
didn't expect you to actually answer this.
It was pretty tall.
That's
Yeah.
really tall.
It's scary.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't your shadow. I mean,
He was only there for a few seconds because, like I said, I glanced at him for a few seconds and my brain was just like, no. And I kept working. And then I was like, for like a second, though, like it was one of those things where I like looked at it, then looked back at my computer, kept typing, and then was just like, what? And looked back because I don't know. I had a delayed reaction.
Yeah.
So it was just.
Well, it's like even if there was an actual person standing in your room, it might take you a second to register.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have been more upset if it was a actual man who I didn't know standing in my
Most
living
times,
room.
the
but,
actual
you know.
man is more scary than a paranormal experience.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Stranger danger.
Yeah.
Well, that's a really good story in a horrifying kind of way.
It's terrifying. I hope I never see him again, but also.
I don't know if it's a shadow person. I'm not an expert in these types of encounters, but like a lot of times people have these stories of these things and they're benign, like they just see them and then they're gone. I mean, I know there's probably lots of versions that are scarier, but it seems to be a common thing where it's almost like like an observer or a watcher or something. Or, maybe there is some type of biologic explanation for why we would see these things.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't.
It's kind of one of those interdimensional kind of things, too, that you hear about.
That I have heard, like, maybe this is a type of being and this is just what they do, is like they pop in and out of places to just like look at stuff.
Yeah, like you said, observers.
The only other weird thing that's similar in my house that I've ever seen that I hate it every time it happened, and it happens more often than I'd like, is that, like, I have a computer gaming desk that's facing out towards my living room, and I can see my staircase to the upstairs, and my cats will sometimes watch. It looks like they're watching somebody walk up or down the stairs.
Horrible.
And sometimes out of the corner of my eye only, which is why I say it's a little bit different, I have thought I saw movement while they were also watching movement, and I'm just like, I don't like that at all. But it's also one of those things where I'm just like, okay, am I just like really freaked out? And most of the time, the only reason I would say it's not is that I was doing something that I'm invested in. Like, usually if you're playing video games, you're pretty invested in the, like,
World.
thing that you're focusing on. So if you if you catch movement out of the side of your eye or something like that, or if you kind of get your attention drawn away from the screen, like I said, I don't know if that's anything, but it's just one of those things that freaks me out. And the only other witnesses I have are my two cats, who both will occasionally stop and look like they're watching something. And I don't always see like the thing out of the corner of my eye when I see them, but
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, if you're playing a video game or something, I could see, oh, my brain was focused on this, and now I hallucinated for a second.
Yeah.
That is a thing that does happen, but your cats were looking at it, too, and I doubt that your cats were hallucinating the same things that you were hallucinating.
I tell my cat, if I see my cat staring at something, I'm like, no, go away, and I shoo him away.
No,
I
that
don't
happens.
allow that to happen. I'm like, if you're
That
seeing
happens
ghosts,
way
you
too
stop that.
often
You
with
get
our
out of here.
cats.
Yep. The one's kind of derpy, so I think she's just kind of staring at nothing, but I still tell her to stop it because it's creepy.
Yeah, they do that a lot, though.
I don't know if this matters or not, but our one friend also has come over my house multiple times, and she's just like, your neighborhood is haunted as hell. And I'm just like, yeah, I get that.
Didn't you have another experience in your neighborhood, like outside your house? Where
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, you want to tell that one?
Sure. This was when I was really little, though. I was, and this is another thing that has happened only once, and I want to say I was maybe 7 or 8, because I was playing outside in a pool after dark, and
Which you would never do if you're over 8.
no, it was in the summer and during summer break. So I was playing in my friend's pool, actually, which is kind of where you can see like the walk that goes through the middle of my neighborhood. I was playing in the pool with my friend, and I just noticed a person who was walking through the middle of my neighborhood down the sidewalk. And they looked like they were kind of like marching almost. And they caught like my friend and my attention. Like we were playing in the pool and we just stopped playing and started watching the guy. He didn't necessarily look like he was different or anything. It was just late at night. So we were kind of just like, what's this dude doing?
He looked like a person.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a normal
And
person.
he kind of was wearing a weird outfit that was like all white and looked almost like a uniform. And he looked like he was marching. And he was just walking down the middle of the sidewalk, and then he wasn't anymore.
Not only was he marching, he disappeared.
And we both screamed and ran towards our respective houses, which my house was across the street, like in the opposite direction, and we were right outside her back door. So she ran into her house, and I ran into to my house, and we did not go back outside.
So you left each other alone for a little bit when a random man disappeared and you're right by
Well,
you.
we didn't know what to do.
Oh my God.
And so it was so scary, but like I don't even think I told my parents because I didn't think they would believe me.
There was a man who was there and then he wasn't.
Yeah, he was walking and he disappeared mid-March. So like there was nowhere he could go that he would just disappear either because it's like an open sidewalk thing. Like we were by like her back door like opened up into like this little field thing, and the sidewalk is just like a sidewalk that's through like a townhouse complex, and there was nothing obstructing our view. So like he wouldn't have just disappeared. Like he didn't walk behind anything. He was just gone.
It was just like he blinked out.
Yeah, kind of. It wasn't like
So weird. I've never had anything like that happen to me, obviously, so it's just like wild. It's so
yeah,
wild.
I've never had anything like that since, but I've remembered it through the whole like time I've grown up.
Yeah, and it wasn't just you again.
Yeah.
There's somebody else who saw it too.
Yeah.
You guys both reacted to it.
Yeah. We kind of just looked at each other. But yeah, I just remember we both looked at each other because we were panicked. And then we looked like, and then we ran like, because I don't remember if she ran into her house first. So I also ran because she, we were both younger. So, but yeah.
Well, your neighborhood is haunted, I guess.
That's what Heather tells me. No.
EMF detector was right yesterday.
Or it's just you.
Yes, we did go on a ghost tour yesterday, and we rented EMF detectors, and the EMF detector went off more often if April was using it. So, I don't know.
Just electrically charged or something.
I mean,
no.
how much stock should we put in a rented EMF detector, I paid $7 to use that, so, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't even have that much coffee that day, so I couldn't have them that wired. No.
Thank you so much to Jessica, Matt, and April for sharing their personal experiences for this episode. We started things off today with a discussion about the dangers associated with both the acceptance and dismissal of anecdotal evidence. What do you think? Would you like to hear more stories like these in the future? If you'd like to share your story for the podcast, be a guest on the show, suggest an episode, or collaborate, please send me an email to paranormaloptimist@gmail.com. Go to the episode description to see where you can follow the show and check out some sources that I cited in today's episode. Not as many this time, but they're still there. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Paranormal Optimist. This show was written, produced, and presented by me, Stephanie. The music in today's episode was obtained royalty-free from Purple Planet Music. See you next time!